Van Helsing's Journal, August 13th. For the past few months, I've been looking to track down the dangerous Dampier, Count von Count. However, today, I finally found him. Currently, he is residing in a castle near a location that I've hunted in before, the swamps of Muppets, overlooking the small town of Sesame. As soon as I was made aware of this, I quickly set off to the castle. It was about a day's journey, and I had arrived at the dead of night. I know you may be asking, would it not be more beneficial to attack during the day? However, first, Dampiers are not affected by sunlight as vampires are, and second, it would not be as much fun. As soon as I entered the castle, I was presented with my first challenge. I heard a loud roar and turned to see a bright orange bear running at me. I quickly pulled out my silver chain whip and snapped at the creature to see if it would give up the chase. Yes, however, it continued its charge. Seeing as it was not giving up, I waited for it to get close, took the whip, and wrapped it around the bear's neck. It roared in pain as the silver burned at its skin. The monster then shrunk back into the form of a human. I asked the human who he was, and he told me his story. His name was Fuzzy Wig, and he had been an entertainer at a local tavern. However, one day, two patrons who didn't quite enjoy his act, named Stantler and Waldorf, led a mob against him. He then proceeded to tell me a few of his jokes, if you could call them that, and I could quickly see why. For protection, he ran into the swamps of Muppets, only to have an encounter with a werebear. He survived, but received the werebear's curse. He asked if he could come along with me, and I reluctantly agreed on one condition. If he told any more of his idiotic jokes, I doubted I would be able to resist my urge to put the silver bullet right between his eyes. As we walked into the next room, the silver chain around his neck successfully kept him from transforming back into his monstrous bear form. However, this did not decrease any dangers that we faced. As we walked into the next dark room, we heard a mysterious laughing, seemingly echoing all around us. I lit a torch in the room to see what we were up against, only to wish that I hadn't. A horrifying furry red demon floated above us on glowing puppet strings.
La 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 la, time to die.
It sang as it began to move its hands in a strange motion. Suddenly, the ground beneath us began to glow a bright red, as I realized the portal was opening beneath us. However, I realized this too late. Fuzzy Wig and I fell through to a strange room that resembled a children's crayon drawing. In the room next to us, there was a weary-looking man dancing on puppet strings, with a sign reading Mr. Noodle hanging from his neck. The furry red demon appeared before us.
Welcome to Elmo's world.
The demon began to fire bright red strings from its back, stabbing and burning all who they touched. Fuzzy Wig tried to avoid these, but one of the strings stabbed right through his hand. His hand burned as the demon pulled him closer and closer. I would have rescued him then, but this seemed like the perfect distraction. I looked around to see if there was anything useful to kill the demon lying around, only to hear a grunt from the stringed-up Mr. Noodle. He looked at me wary and handed me a simple, smooth rock. At first, it didn't seem like much, but then I thought it's not unusual to use natural sources to fight supernatural creatures. After all, salt harms ghosts, water melts witches, and certain types of plants can harm vampires. Why couldn't this demon be weak to rocks? I then thanked the man, only to see he had died. Shame, but I did not have time to care. Right before the furry demon was about to tear the chain from around Fuzzy's neck, I threw the rock at it. The rock landed straight against its head, and a glowing beam of yellow light erupted from the wound. Fuzzy Wig grabbed the demented creature and slammed it against the ground. As I raised the rock in the air, I then yelled, "Take us back to our world or I'll bash you in the head." The demon obliged. However, our trouble was not quite done yet. The Bear and I had quite a few more fights. Each room in the large castle seemed to be filled with yet another threat we had to deal with. In one room we were swarmed with a horde of fragile gremlins. In another we had to face down a blonde boar. However, one of the strangest threats we had to face was a foe I'd long thought to never see again. Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. He was a poor excuse for a mad scientist who had all of his experiments go disastrously wrong. One of these experiments even turning his skin green. When we first walked into his room, green lightning was crackling all over the walls. Dr. Honeydew stood next to a large table covered by a sheet. "Ah, Dr. Van Helsing, long time no see," I sarcastically responded, "probably because of that experiment where you removed your eyes." His empty eye sockets lowered at me. "That was a low blow, Van Helsing. I assume you are most interested in my newest project." "You assume wrong. Come along." Fuzzy Wig. I quickly tried to leave, only for a large creature to rise from under the sheet. Clearly, Honeydew had heard of the work of Dr. Frankenstein and thought what could go wrong. However, as opposed to Frankenstein's creation, this was much lesser. While Frankenstein's monster is intelligent and quite eloquent, this was, well, not that. It seemingly only spoke in strange, high-pitched honking noises. It charged at us, its large hands reaching out to strangle us. I, however, had a plan. As it ran at me, I grabbed two of the electrical wires hanging from the walls and ran the creature, ripping it. Before I could stand back up, I took the two cables and attached them to the two bolts within its neck. Electricity overwhelmed the creature's body. As it popped and sparked until it finally died. I then furiously walked up to Bunsen, who had taken to hiding in a corner. I pulled out my pistol and held it to his head. "Take us to the Count. Now." Without much choice, he agreed. We climbed up the palace stairs until we reached the 10th floor. On the floor the Count sat, playing out his organ. Bats flew around him, squeaking in tune with his song. "Ah, Van Helsing, welcome to my home. Not that you were invited, but..." Without hesitation, I shot a silver bolt straight at the back of the Count's head, only for him to turn around and stop it in midair. "Ah, so that's how it will be." Honeydew then attempted to run, but Fuzzy Wig grabbed his arms and restrained him. The Dampier flew at me, fangs bared. However, I was prepared. I first took a silver powder and threw it at the Count. Not only did this block his vision, but the silver powder burned his skin. This gave me enough time to go to his side and fire off two silver bolts into his waist. This wasn't going to be fatal, but it would not feel good. He recovered from the blindness and summoned a camp of bats, which flew at me. I took out my other pistol and began dual-wielding bullets against the winged assailants, which is a shame because I do really like bats. However, the bats were merely a distraction. As the Count flew at me and rammed me against a stone wall, he held me against the wall, preparing a killing blow when I stabbed him in the abdomen with a wooden stake. He stepped back, woozy from the blow. However, he had one last trick up his sleeve. Fuzzy Wig had been standing to the side this whole time, guarding Dr. Honeydew. However, using his telekinesis, the Count was able to remove the silver chain, keeping Fuzzy Wig in control. He roared as orange fur began to glow along his body, which has grown twice its normal size. The bear was back, charging at me. However, it stopped. "What is wrong with you? Kill him, you buffoon!" the Count yelled. The bear responded by charging at him. The bear and the Dampier began to fight. Even heavily damaged, she was able to take the bear on, and probably would have killed him had I not stepped in. I unloaded my silver bullets and rolled them across the floor. The Count looked at them and bent over. A little-known fact about vampires is that if they are shown many small objects, they are forced to count them. So he began to count. 1, 2, 3, He never finished. The bear tore him to shreds. I nodded at Fuzzy Wig and set off into the night. I probably should have killed him, but despite how annoying he was, he helped me, and I couldn't bear to let him die. Oh, come on, it's spreading!